Great. Thanks for joining us. So today we're talking a little bit about ISO 27001, why startups need it and when. And yeah, we're super excited that you're here. So thanks again for taking part of this webinar / it's going to be a little bit also more of a meetup as well, but more on that later. Yeah, here's a quick agenda. So right now I just first of all, we're going to have a welcome from my side. Then Branko is going to talk about the topic that you're all here about to hear. Then we have a short Q&A session, so everyone can just, ask questions to Branko as well. And then we actually prepare some breakout rooms that we want to use as well for networking, since, it's actually good to just talk to each other and learn a little bit more of why you're interested in the topic or just about in general cybersecurity. So yeah, just a few rules before we start. You will be muted by default. Feel free to unmute yourself when you want to talk to other people after the webinar. If you can, just for you to, in case you forget, it's better if you can just ask the questions directly in the chat so we can discuss it in the Q&A session with Branko. And afterwards, of course, please feel free to unmute yourself as well so you can talk to anyone. This meeting will be recorded and we will distribute it afterwards as well. And like I said, there's a let's meet and catch up session where we can just go into breakout rooms. Your speakers today, Fabiola, I'm the co-founder, and Branko, our lead in security and compliance, are here, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about ISO. So yeah, I will pass it on to Branko.
Thanks, Fabiola. It's great to see everybody here, and thanks for coming. I will definitely try to bring ISO closer to you in the next 15-ish minutes in the session, and of course, any specific questions, we will have hopefully very interesting and insightful conversations after the webinar. So let's talk about ISO. First, what it is for those of you that are unfamiliar with the standard or just heard some things about it, maybe that you need it but don't know why, or what does it entail. We will start from the basics, and what ISO 27001 is basically, it's a framework. It's a framework of controls that an organization needs to implement to successfully certify against the standard and to successfully say that they have an information security management system implemented, which is what you see here called as an ISMS. Be comfortable with that abbreviation, as it's the most used one in ISO 27001. It's all about the ISMS. Have you implemented controls about the ISMS, your maturity of the ISMS? You'll be hearing a lot of it. It's an international standard, so it really doesn't matter where your organization is, how big your organization is, which industry you operate in. Are you a startup? Are you a huge corporation globally, operating with thousands of employees and operating in multiple industries as well? It doesn't matter. ISO can be scaled basically at any size. The goal of the standard implementation usually is the main one that everybody should really care about, is to improve your security and to bring your company's information security to at least an accepted level of maturity. We can go to the next slide and talk about why you need it. Like we said what the goal is, right? The goal is to improve your security. However, there are many other factors that can trigger your organization to consider ISO. And there are also very good benefits of implementing ISO 27001. So first, the requirement usually comes knocking at your door, either through a regulatory requirement, if you're operating in a specific market. Like example, you're operating in a German market, and you are a digital healthcare company, you need to comply with the regulation such as DiGA, and it's mandating you to implement ISO 27001 to be enlisted, in this digital healthcare market. And basically, this is your only way to go. However, there are many other contractual obligations that can come if you are partnering with a big corporation that wants all of their vendors, service providers, if you're one of them, to have, at least ISO audited information security management system, and they are mandating you through a contract to implement the ISO. So this is another most common way that you're probably here for today. The second reason you should consider ISO is to gain competitive advantage. If you showcase on your website, on your product, that your company is maintaining an ISO 27001 certificate, and especially if you are a product company that is offering digital services, which is hard not to be today, is definitely gaining competitive advantage if you are showcasing that you are taking care of your customers' data by implementing such a framework. The next one can be to reduce or eliminate business risk. This is definitely something that goes into that main goal of bringing your security into a mature state, is actually taking care of your company's risks. The biggest risk that you're trying to remove or mitigate through ISO is the risk of a data breach. This is like the biggest and most costly thing that can happen to an organization when it comes to data, and implementing ISO is actively fighting that risk level and reducing it to the most minimum level for your organization. So you are, to say another way, preventing those costs. We can go to the next reason, as to improve competence and skill of staff. If you implement ISO 27001, one of the requirements is to implement a security awareness program, to have all your employees educated and regularly trained on best practices in information security. That is, how to protect your company from email phishing attacks, from scams, from viruses and other malware type infections that can creep into your devices and steal the data or compromise the data, or make your services unavailable. And this is effectively increasing the knowledge and skill of your staff, to actively and together fight these threats and reduce the risk for the organization, which is everybody's learning something. And what the best thing is what they learn there is what they can take home, because cyber threats do not stop at the office. If you have an email, it's going to follow you around pretty much all the time. So it's definitely one of the good benefits. Next one is to increase quality. Implementing ISO frameworks, especially the one for quality management system, which is not the one we're talking about today, but it's the specific one for quality. Implementing ISO 27001 is actually effectively increasing the quality of your IT infrastructure, the quality of your digital products, and at the same time, effectively increasing its cost. But its cost not to you, but its price to the customer, as implementing an ISO framework effectively increases the value of the organization. So as some organizations are under a misconception that implementing such a security framework is a cost center, is just a cost, something I have to do, something I have to pay and maintain. This is an absolutely wrong perception. You're really investing into increasing the value of organization, your quality, and effectively increasing profits. So to go to the last points, pretty much both of them, preventing the costs of a data breach and generating profit are the main end goals that affect, if you are a business person and not a tech person, then you would mostly care about these most effective benefits. So to go to the next one, to see how the process actually looks like of getting such a standard. First one, of course, is implementation. And as any implementation, the first absolute step you have to take is get the commitment from the management. If the management is not on board, any team that is implementing ISO, that project is most likely doomed to fail. Management needs to understand why it's important. They need to understand what are the benefits, and they really need to be behind this project. That is not a one-off project. It's something you start and never finish, because it's a security management system that you continuously need to maintain, right? So commitment from top management, absolute number one. Second one is, well, good project planning. It's a project like any other, and it requires allocated resources such as team members that are dedicated to this project. They know, their roles in the project. They have an allocated budget, and of course, there is a timeline in which this project should be executed. Another step is seeking external support. Really, it's very common that an organization starts an ISO project, but very soon stops as they hit some walls in interpreting the ISO controls. They say, we don't really know what it means for us, what should we really implement here, and they kind of stop in their tracks and never either figure it out or just start doing other stuff, and the project freezes. I've seen this happen many, many times, and maybe some of you can relate. Seeking external support, such as a consultant, part-time, or just an hourly based, somebody that can jump in and help your team translate what needs to be done and guide them into this process, is really a great investment, as you will really go to the finish line. Or just partner with the company or your partner company that has already gone through the process. Just ask them to share some best practice and knowledge how they did it right. And execute, just execute. And in the end, as we mentioned, hope it brings back the value. So here is just a reference. We're not going to go through this. It's just just the key elements of implementation. You have 114 controls. Don't be afraid by this number. It's some of the controls are extremely easy. Some of them are hard, but this is how they're broken down right now. And they are all categorized into 14 categories, as you can see here. I'll just keep it as a reference. You can look it up later. Then the next step is certification. After you do the implementation successfully, or you think you did, you can definitely start looking to scheduling the audit with the external certification body. There are many options. You don't have to choose the auditor from the country you're operating in. You can choose the auditor from the other side of the globe. It doesn't matter. You can actually maybe find even better prices in some other countries. That was the case. And so you are free to really find a company that is doing this that you're comfortable with. Scheduling an audit date. This is really up to you. Whenever you feel you're ready and you want to do this audit. However, you should put a date to kind of put the pressure on the company to really reach that last push of implementation. You should put a deadline. So you should really do this commitment in advance. As I've seen, it's positively affecting the implementation process. Once you schedule an audit date, there are two phases. There is phase 1 and phase 2. Basically, it's just how the audit is split. It goes through the first controls of the ISO, and then it goes to the annex controls in the phase 2. And on average, and for an average size of the company, this entire audit process from start to finish through both phases lasts about 30 days in total. One important fact to know, if you have any findings in any of the phases, like something is missing, you have 30 days after each phase to fix the issue. So it's not like they find an issue and you fail immediately, you need to start over again. No, you always have remediation time that you can fix but it's 30 days after each phase. So if in phase 1 they find something, you have 30 days, and in phase 2 they find something, you have another 30 days to remediate that. And after full remediation of any stuff that you missed in the implementation or remediated, the auditor is satisfied, you will get a certificate that is valid for 3 years. It's also worth knowing that within those 3 years, you will get 2 surveillance audits after first year and after a second year. And this is very light audit. Please know, as I said, you need to maintain the ISMS. Okay, and the last one is what are the common problems? It's the knowledge gap. It's, as I mentioned, not seeking outside help and not, not understanding the ISO framework very well, and just this stops a lot of projects in their tracks. Bad project management as well. If the project just gets off the rails, nobody picks it up. There is no proper check-ins, no proper tracking, and no accountability or responsibility in the dedicated to team members of the project. Lack of support and commitment from management. We discussed this before. This is also a very common one. It's just something that gets delegated to a team. They struggle with the project. They need more budget. They need more people, but the management is not interested into investing more, and the project fails. And sticking to a minimum is a very interesting one, as it's implementing ISO just so you show somebody you have the ISO, and not really implementing the controls to satisfy your security. So again, the goal of implementing ISO is to increase your security levels. The aftermath is you get a certificate, your profits increase, your quality increases, your compliance is met. These are just the aftermath of implementing the ISO for the right reasons. So don't do it for the wrong reasons, and don't do it at a minimum just to check off the boxes, as again, you will be doomed to fail in your security, and that's data breach costs again. So yeah, this is a very brief overview of ISO. I have to stress it that it's a very brief overview. However, I hope I intrigued your interest enough that we can have a very nice conversation in the breakout rooms, and maybe answer some very interesting questions. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks so much, Branko, for your presentation. So yeah, if anyone has questions, would love to just unmute yourself or write them in the chat. That would be amazing. Okay, Prashant has a question. Could you please name regulatory compliance for healthcare startups in Germany?
Regulatory compliance for, it's called DiGA. Digital health applications. It's from BFARM. If that's what the question was about, I can even put the link in the chat. Yes, there we go. And if you hear the baby, well, deal with it. There's nothing I can do about it.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? Now is the time to ask Branko anything you want to know.
You're welcome.
Does the certification cost something?
It does. Nobody does it for free, unfortunately. I tried to find. Yes, it does. So the costs first of all vary quite a bit depending on the size of your organization, the number of employees you have, the complexity of your infrastructure and system that is being audited. Example, if you're a product, a SaaS product company, the complexity of your cloud infrastructure, the number of employees, the number of endpoints is usually the factors that can increase the price because it increases the amount of audit days. So they just pretty much relate to how much effort it is for me to audit this. Can I do phase 1 in 3 days, phase 2 in 3 days, which is pretty much the minimum I've seen so far, like 6 audit days. I never done it lower than that, and I've done it with very small startups. So this is pretty much the minimum I've seen. Everything above that is just increasing the price on that audit day, extra audit day that the auditor needs to be engaged. So, and the costs can really vary. Like I think in Germany, it's starting from 6K for the entire audit. So not phase 1, phase 2, but for the entire audit, and increases from that point. Now, I say that I've seen prices drop drastically in some other countries and some other organizations. So if you expand your search, you might find luck even on very good prices. However, this is the most I can speak, as this is a very varied topic, and it really depends who is offering you the service.
Thank you, Branko. So now there are also some other questions popping up. So we have from Kennedy a question: at what stage of a startup should ISO 27001 be considered? Within 1 year of establishment, or after Series A or B, or maybe another milestone? That's actually a really good question.
Very, very good question. Thank you for asking. So to just address a few points from the ISO, and actually this is related to funding rounds. If you have ISO early, your funding rounds will go better. So if you do it in seed stage, first, it's a lot easier. You have a very few endpoints to secure. You have a very small environment to implement these controls. First, it's a lot easier. I know there is a lot going on in that phase of the startup. However, if security is really important aspect for the industry you're operating in, like if you're in fintech, if you're in healthcare, if you are in any product that is processing a lot of sensitive and personal information, you should look into security as soon as possible, because it's going to be a million times easier to scale that system instead of implementing it later when it's more complicated. So it's going to be easier, it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to get you more money in the funding rounds, I guarantee, because just having an ISO this early shows the maturity of your organization in such an early phase is already at a high level that investors really feel safer investing in your business. So this is within the first year, honestly, this is what I would do. But again, it's a business decision. You can pick your right time. However, the earlier the better.
Great, thank you for that. And also Bruno is asking a question about, basically most corporations are already stressed about GDPR. So do we need additional stress? Is there a way to mix the processes, come on track?
Also, very good point. So GDPR by itself is a privacy regulation that has security aspects to it. So, and ISO is a security-focused framework. The good thing is there is extreme overlap between the security controls GDPR asks of you and security controls that ISO demands you implement. Meaning, implementing ISO means closing the gaps in your GDPR implementation on the security side, not on the privacy side. On the privacy side, like building your entire privacy policy, managing how you collect user data, your support, your data protection officer. These, of course, are other things that are outside of ISO that you need to consider implementing within GDPR. However, ISO is very much complementing GDPR implementation and already taking a lot of things, in it that will check off the GDPR boxes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And there was another question from Daria. So how much does our product cost for ISO 27001? I'm happy to answer your questions in our breakout room number 3. where we will be discussing a little bit more about Secfix and about our product in case you want to learn more, or just to get to know Jean and I, which is basically are the ones who are in contact with customers. So yeah, in case you want to learn more about it, please feel free to join room number 3. I'm happy to give maybe some free room for 1 or 2 more questions in case anyone else wants to ask Branko directly something. You're welcome, Daria. All right. Yeah, if there are no other questions, so we have actually prepared some breakout rooms. Thanks also to everyone who has actually contributed to giving us feedback about what you actually would like to see in these webinars. So from your feedback, and especially the ones that talk to Jean, we wanted to give you also some space to just kind of like meet other people and discuss about specific topics. So after this last question, we can all move on to the different rooms. We have created 3 rooms, the chill lounge, where you can just, chill with other people, meet, our cybersecurity community. We have actually done several events already. We have an event in Berlin that we did last year with another partner, Blaze, and we always are happy to see our community members. Again here. We also have the second room with Meet Branko. So if anyone would like to connect with Branko or just discuss a little bit more about your ISO 27001 questions or any other topic related to cybersecurity, he's there to help you. And like I said, in room number 3, Jean and I will be there to just give you more insights into our product and how we can help you with Secfix. Maybe before we go into the breakout rooms, there's one more question from Damian. So Branko, for multinational companies, how well can ISO 27001 align with and help getting other industry standards such as SOC 2 and NIST? Actually, a very interesting one as well.
It is, and the good thing is that a lot of other security standards, and I have to know that there are many. ISO 27001 is just the most well-known, the most practiced one currently, but there are other ones. For example, in the United States, they mostly go with their NIST framework, which is National Institute in the United States, that pretty much developed a security framework for the governmental entities and then just outsourced it for everybody else to use. And a lot of it is derived from the ISO standard. So the overlap is extremely high with the NIST, with the high trust framework, with the SOC 2, especially SOC 2 type 2 trust controls and trust principles, and also BSI standards, as you are also familiar with, that in Germany are also very well practiced, are also having a lot of overlap with the ISO standards, also in other areas, not just security. So so it's a matter of market, where you operate, what are the demands of the market, and which standard really has bigger popularity. To be honest, it's always the game of that in the market. However, in the EU, ISO is absolutely the current leader in this, and something that I think there is the most knowledge out there on how to implement it. So the community is really huge, and this is why it's worth it going with this one.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Branko. So I will just open the breakout rooms now. And in case you want to join one of those rooms, feel free to click on join. So I will open them now, and you should be able to see there. I will stay here in case anyone has questions, but otherwise Branko and the other staff team members have gone through